Ladies and gentlemen, well, thank you for coming to my talk on the bike sharing network reconfiguration and optimization. I'm Suini Yi, and this is my joint work with Professor Kang Xin in the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. This will be today's outline. Basically, three core parts: the data-driven analytics, core problem formulation, and the corresponding data evaluation. Bike sharing nowadays has emerged as an important first and last mile urban transportation form. The latest bike sharing system is powered by mobile networking and Internet of Things, where the status of all the bikes and their dogs are real-time updated over the time. And the customers can check in and check out anytime they want. And in this way, the bike sharing service, or BSS, not only provides a more economic, greener, and healthier urban travel solution, but also reduces the hassle upon the urban traffic planning. The bike sharing service connects different regions of a city by the bike trips, which thus forms a bike sharing service network. With such a great success and positive feedbacks from the society and the government, many bike sharing service providers are beginning to further adjust and enlarge their station network, which in other words can be summarized as the station network reconfiguration. Expansion and reduction are within their schedule in order to maximize their service level and operation profits. The government and the city planner are also suggesting various optimization upon the bike sharing network in order to help plan the city traffic. That's the basic background. Basically, the station network reconfiguration consists of two perspectives. One is the station relocation or replacement, and the station dock resizing. In terms of the relocation, we have the adding, removing, or moving actions. In terms of dock resizing, one may consider increasing or decreasing the dock size. There are many conventional practices in the reconfiguration which consider thorough site investigation, extensive survey, and adjustment, which are usually time-consuming and labor-intensive. Designing an automatic and data-driven system optimizing the BSS network can reduce the search scope and provide a more profitable reference for the city planner. In this paper, we consider how to design such a mechanism. Besides the conventional survey and investigations, many service providers have adopted an interactive website in order to crowdsource the feedbacks online. With an interactive map, the BSS users can easily pinpoint the location they desire as the candidate for the network reconfiguration. Each feedback may contain the location coordinate, timestamp, and even some comments. In this way, the service provider can easily collect many timely feedbacks in a short period, which is expected to facilitate the network planning process. Despite such a convenience, there are a lot of challenges given such a large quantities of crowdsourced feedback. In particular, three perspectives need to be carefully considered before a successful reconfiguration can be conducted. First, in the data perspectives, different information sources should be combined to make a more comprehensive understanding of the network condition. In practice, besides the crowdsourced feedback, bike usage and the trips should be also combined here. However, they're usually in different dimensions and categories. How to combine them together to make a joint decision is an open question. Second part is the user perspective. We observe that the users have preferences in traveling between different station pairs, likely due to their daily commute demand or sightseeing, entertainment purposes. Such a trip tendency makes the decision of an individual station hardly dependent on its own usage of crowdsourced feedbacks. How to incorporate the mutual trip tendency for the users also become an important design concern here. Thirdly, the crowdsourced and the recorded data contain noise. How to address the bias and noise issue is also worth consideration here. Therefore, in this paper, we need to carefully design a joint fusion in order to accommodate the aforementioned factors, which in other words calls for a information fusion and joint optimization design. So here we propose the CBytes, a crowdsourced bike sharing station network reconfiguration framework in order to use the information fusion and joint optimization to decide where the station should be relocated and how the docks should be resized. We consider the entire city area discretized into many grids and form a heat map-like evaluation over the closeness of the stations with respect to the grid. Against this heat map, we consider the BSS network reconfiguration into a graph matching problem and introduce the sensor network optimization approach to optimize and determine the station location and the dock size. We have conducted extensive data studies and experimental evaluations over 3 premium BSS stations in the United States to validate the effectiveness and accuracy of the CBytes. There are several related works here. Basically, the urban computing, information fusion, and crowdsourcing. Powered by those techniques, recently there are a lot of intelligent transportation problems we revisited, including the bike sharing. Despite many recent studies over the mobility and demand prediction, few of them have directly considered how to realize the success of the reconfiguration combining different factors. There are also other factors affecting the reconfiguration here, including the social, economic, and psychological considerations. Our work is still general enough to accommodate the above. There are also some other recent works on the so-called station-free BSS bike sharing stations, or some other similar scenarios we observed in LA, like the so-called bird electric scooter. A lot of people ride it recently. This emerging work, our work can be still general enough to extend to those station-free BSS, because if we consider each station as each bicycle as an individual station, our work can be extended there. Despite this, because those kind of station-free BSS still limited in its proliferation is still limited in many countries and areas, we do not discuss here. Here we first present the system framework, which basically consists of 4 layers: the input, design, core, and action. In the input layer, different information sources are collected, including the crowdsourced BSS station suggestions, those usage and service providers' input. They will be stored into databases, and then the cost functions, volt intensity, historical usage, and interstation trip tendency are jointly fed to the module of the joint objective function. Meanwhile, those other factors like the map, geographic interstation distance, and other designs are also processed. This is the design layer where the data analytics are conducted to provide more important parameters input for the core formulation. Then we have the core layers trying to formulate the optimization to determine the location and the dock size. And finally, those decisions are fed to the action layer. We know that here the BSS network reconfiguration can be conducted in an interactive manner, which means that the service providers, they can readjust their own input parameters to reconduct the optimization until a satisfactory result is returned. So in this paper, we validate the performance based on 3 different datasets from the PV at Chicago, Nice Ride at Twin Cities, and the Metro Bike at the LA. The motivation here for the extensive data analytics is to provide important design and related input parameters for the core formulations of C-bytes. Note that each configuration, we only apply those input data with the timestamps before the reconfiguration happens. First, we show the historical usage of the byte trips at each station. We use the DV here at the Chicago because it has a longer history and more reconfigurations. We can see that there are more byte usage around those point of interest area, including the city skyline, or around those stations near the coastline of the Big Lake. So we will consider the historical usage here as an intuitive way to measure the importance. Specifically, we designed the metric in order to evaluate the usage of the grid for each station candidate. The physical meaning here that is the more usage is used upon the grid, then the more importance it will be considered into our formulation. In our study, we also observed that solely considering only the byte station usage in the reconfiguration decision may ignore some more subcode features. We first show the two figures of the interstation trip tendency. These stations are not necessarily those stations with the most byte usage. However, due to different tendencies of the users, say for example the recreation purpose of those people along the lake shore and the daily commuter usage between the downtown and the campus. Their mutual connections in terms of the trips between the start and destination become very strong. If we solely consider only the usage of the stations in an independent manner, important information about the user trip may be ignored, leading to the inconvenience of those regular users who may bring the more profits to the system. Therefore, we incorporate the aforementioned knowledge into our joint formulation. Specifically, we find the trip pairs among different stations, normalize them, and characterize the link importance to see the regular trip among different stations. So the basic meaning here is more mutual trips between two stations, the stronger the link they will be. And we, for each station, calculates the total score in terms of the trip tendency and fed to the formulation. Later on, the experimental evaluation will validate the importance of highlighting such a kind of mutual trip tendency. Besides the usage and trip tendency, we also study the mutual distance in order to model the relationship between the trip and the bike-sharing network density. We show that the travel preferences of the bike-sharing service users, we can see a very obvious and clear last or first mile preference of the users in the travel distance between the station start and the destinations. Those two systems, they may show slightly difference, but the preference of the users are very obvious. That's why we will consider it as one of the distance bounds for the station replacement design. On the other hand, we also observe the counter effect in the byte usage in nearby stations. So in the left-hand figure, we conduct the regression upon the usage and the mutual distance of the neighboring stations. The positive regress parameters here indicates the weak positive effect between the usage and the station distance. If we carefully consider the in the short distance, the larger effect, say for example like the 200 meter to the 600 meter, we can infer that the station usage tend to increase in a sharper trend if two neighboring stations are farther away from each other. That means a competitive effect can be seen, which is reasonable in practice as the users, when they have more different drop-off or pick-up options with the stations available nearby, then there will be competitive effects between the neighboring stations. The station network and the dock location cannot be too dense, or otherwise there will be utilization concern. Therefore, we consider this distance here as the lower bound for the network expansion. To summarize, we use the upper bound distance to cater for the majority of the travel distance preferences and the lower bound to mitigate the conflict between neighboring stations. Besides the internal knowledge of the station reconfiguration, we take into account the external knowledge from the crowdsourced event. Can you hear me? Yes. So each suggestion is equipped with the location coordinates and some comments if available and crawled from those websites provided by the service providers. We leverage around 1,000 feedbacks before each reconfiguration to assist the optimization. So the left-hand side figures shows the spatial distributions of the crowdsourced feedbacks in terms of the new station suggestion. So we can see most of the suggestions go to the POI area and the central business area in order to adapt the stations. Given the past data, we will conduct the data cleaning in order to filter out some unnecessary data. Some guys label some stations inside the lake, and those building boundary to filter out those unnecessary inputs. So in order to fuse the feedbacks, we designed a penalty function with that zone in order to trigger the aggregation here. So it follows some intuitive ideas from the machine learning where there will be linear functions with, for the activation function. Now comes the whole formulation here. So basically two parts. One is the station replacement and the dock resizing. Here there will be some basic idea delivered. So we mentioned we are given three different information sources like the station usage, inter-station trip tendency, and the bike usage. We decide the joint difference functions in order to fuse them and display like a heat map. That is the joint difference heat. For each station, we will find out the corresponding heat map that is characterize the joint difference for this station with respect to the city map. For each station, we consider it as a graph node and the inter-station distance as the bound, upper bound and lower bound for the neighboring stations. Then we try to find out those sets of grids which minimize the joint difference. Of course, here we also need to consider about the cost of the reconfiguration, so it will be jointly minimized. Later on, we will present the core formulation. So the base here is the station locations. The optimization variables are the weights for each grid for each station. The joint difference function is an inverse function, which means that the more usage, the more trip tendencies and more volts, the smaller the difference. So this figure shows the spatial distributions of the joint difference for two stations, meaning the affinity or the closeness for the stations in the optimization frame. So the objective function, that is the joint differences plus the redeployment cost, subject to the actions of adding, removing, or moving a station. Here we consider the moving stations is a removal followed by an add. And the weighted average of the grids of the relocation and the distant bounds. Here we consider the semi-definite programming in order to solve the non-convex problem here, because there is a lower bound. Similarly, we have the dock resizing, that is try to minimize the cost. We will allocate more docks to those stations with more power source support and more volts. Note that the total number of dock size can be determined by the VSS service providers. Here are some experimental evaluations. We evaluate the graph matchings in terms of accuracy, F measure, precision, and record. We can see that the overall the DV test is slightly easier than the other cities because we have more bike sharing data. And the trip tendency here is also important factor. When we compare the accuracy, considering these trip tendencies of the different users achieve better performance than those without that consideration. We further show the relocation cost here. So the overall, the CBIs achieve lower relocation cost compared with the other schemes. And this cost is also proportional to the network size. That's why EV has a slightly more cost than the other schemes, than the other systems. We also show the dot resizing correctness. We can see that there will be higher accuracy because we consider the joint difference optimization, and there will be generally smaller error in the DB due to the more data support. Finally, we visualize the overall result of the three cities, Chicago, Twin City, and LA. The red circle is the ground truth, and the blue cross is the prediction. Overall, our scheme shows the effectiveness in location selection, and we believe our scheme can serve as a reference for the city planners and service providers. Here are some discussions. Because currently, most of the bike sharing services are increasing their network. That means we don't have the pure network shrinkage here, but we have the move of a stations. That means the remove followed by an end. Our work is general enough to accommodate those ideas. And also, if in the future we are given more other data, we can integrate them to achieve better performance, including the denoising, truth discovery in the recent crowdsourced framework. So this slide concludes our work. We propose the reconfiguration for bike sharing using the crowdsourced station feedbacks, historical usage and cost and design. We try to use the sensor network optimization to solve the non-convex replacement problem. We have conducted extensive data-driven studies with 3 premium VSS systems. So that ends my talk. Thank you very much.